Ella Flagg Young was born January 15, 1845 in Buffalo, New York, to parents Theodore and Jane Flagg. She didn't attend formal school when she was young, but taught herself how to read and write. At the age of 10, when she did start school, she dropped out after only a few months because she didn't feel she was being intellectually challenged, and she lacked support from her parents. When she was 15, she went in and took the certification exam to become a teacher and passed. However, she was told at the time that she was too young to teach. Ella's mother also told her that she could never be successful as a teacher, but Ella continued on and created her own practicum to test her possible capabilities in the classroom and decided that teaching was the right thing for her. She married William Young in 1868 at the age of 23. The two of them had no children together, and William died only 4 years later. She had already lost her parents' brother and sister, leaving her with no close relatives. Since she had lost her family, she decided to devote her life to teaching. After she graduated from the Chicago Normal School in 1862, she taught primary school until she became the new principal of the Normal School from 1865 to 71. She then taught high school from 1871 to 75 and then became principal of a grammar school from 1875 to 1877. In 1887, Ella was appointed as the assistant superintendent of the Chicago schools and held the position for 12 years. She also served on the Board of Education for the state of Illinois from 1888 to 1913. She returned to study at the age of 55 at the University of Chicago under John Dewey. In 1899, she was appointed as the Associate Professor of Pedagogy after resigning as Assistant Superintendent. She received her PhD in the year 1900, and her dissertation was published as Isolation in the School. She later wrote two more volumes, Ethics in the School and Some Types of Modern Educational Theory in 1902. The whole series was titled Contributions to Education. In 1905, Ella returned as the principal of Chicago Normal School for a few years. In 1909, she became the first woman to head the school system of a major city in the United States when she was appointed as the superintendent of the Chicago schools. She focused on improving teacher training, getting teaching recognized as a profession, and broadening the teacher responsibilities. She also included vocational and physical training in school curricula, along with adding a sex hygiene program. They were one of the first schools to do that. In 1910, she was, with help from Margaret Haley, Young was elected as the first woman president of the National Education Association. In 1913, Young resigned as superintendent. However, after much controversy and public protest led by Jane Addams, Young was reappointed, but she resigned permanently in 1915. Ella Flagg Young died in the flu pandemic on October 16, 1918, at the age of 73. During her teaching career, Ella led the Chicago schools through a period of dramatic change. Industrialization was dominating the economy, and diverse populations were moving in. She wanted to guarantee the quality and welfare of the school's teachers, so she created school governing bodies where teachers and administrators talked about curriculum and logistical matters, such like the staff meetings we have today. She also encouraged educators to form study groups so they could discuss educational theory and construct screening programs for students entering the city normal school. Ella gave the authority over administrative functions to school-level staff instead of keeping it in the central office. She also added deans to the schools to help counsel students. She worked towards changing the office of principal from just accounting and paperwork to one that required a deep knowledge of the curriculum and the pedagogy, the teaching going on in the school. Ella believed that if a school was strictly compartmentalized, then students would feel divided from each other and wouldn't believe that their learning was meaningful to them. It robbed them of their humanity and intelligence, just like the mechanization of industry. She said that if a system didn't allow independent thought, then teachers and students would both start to lose the ability to think for themselves. Ella believed that teachers and students needed more control in schools. Only when people could make significant decisions for themselves and with each other could they tap their natural intelligence and begin to develop it fully. Students and teachers needed to have freedom and power to form and carry out their own ideas. This process would entice people who were talented and qualified. She said these ideas would help construct school communities. They just needed to allow teachers time and space to participate in the intellectual, legislative, and logistical functions of running the schools. The time she spent in the Chicago schools gave her the experience to come to these ideas, along with years of studying philosophy, schooling, and society. Her writings and leadership show an amazing balance of theory and practice of these ideas. Ella believed that women deserved to be in a position of power, especially when it came to the educational system. She said women are destined to rule the school of every city. In the near future, we will have more women than men in executive charge of the vast educational system. It is a woman's natural field, and she is no longer satisfied to do the greatest part of the work and yet be denied leadership. She worked so hard throughout her life to support women's rights and their progression throughout society. She was a strong supporter and advocate for the women's suffrage movement. Ella paved the way through the educational leadership for women and fought hard for their rights. I've had so many experiences through my education that were definitely thanks to some of Ella Flagg Young's ideas and teachings. Programs such as student government and staff meetings where all teachers and administrators participate all followed the thought process that Ella had of giving students and teachers the opportunity to create their own ideas and try to carry them out. I've had teachers that would ask students their opinions on how they themselves could do better in the classroom and how a different approach to a topic might help them learn better. Ella also helped with the advancement of women to gain positions of leadership in the education system and led the way for them to take charge. I couldn't imagine schools where women couldn't hold positions of power of any sort. I feel that Ella Flagg Young had a great effect on schooling as we know it today, and the ideas that we apply to educational philosophy now. I think she was an amazing woman and was able to accomplish so much throughout everything she did during her life. Thank you.